It's good to see everyone today. We have um, a day long planned in a way, and not so planned in other ways because Ajahn Gunha, when we were in Thailand, was really strongly encouraging the flow of the immediate Dhamma coming through, and I've always found that a little bit of planning helps make the session a little more coherent. Too much planning gets in the way of feeling what's alive in the moment. So it'll be a mix. and um, because it's right here at the end of the calendar year, it felt like this is an ideal time to reflect on this past year and how it went for you, and to really appreciate so much the good things that have come in this year, and also to notice any of the things that we would um, like to bring some healing to, or like to bring some kind attention to in order to process and let go. So in the check-in, a couple of people mentioned some things that they were working with, and the description of how they're working with it was perfect. This ability to recognize the situation, recognize the feelings that come up, and the opportunities for making choices about how to be present with that, how to process it, work with it. I mean, certainly we can have memories from the past that are plaguing us even for decades. I always remember Ajahn Sumedho talking about an incident that happened when he was in the service. I think he was in the Navy, if I remember right. I haven't heard him tell his story in a couple decades, so I'm not sure anymore exactly, but I think he was in the Navy, and something happened that he felt was really, really unfair, and really, obviously, really painful. And he said, even, many, many years later, bringing that thought to mind still brought up the same feelings. And of course, his practice for a very long time has been to rest in awareness and to be in that state of mind where he could watch that happen. And, it's kind of amazing how strong our conditioning can be. And that's conditioning from every level, our societal level, psychological, our cultural level of shape, how we're shaped, how we're formed by circumstances, conditioning, the training, in a sense, that we've been getting as a human being over lifetimes. And, to recognize that what the Buddha said is so true and applicable in our life every day, that if we recognize that we're experiencing dukkha, suffering, stress, discomfort, disappointment, on whatever level or degree it is, this lack of satisfaction, this unhappiness, people brought up today, irritation, or sometimes it's really just disappointment. The circumstances in life do not bring the happiness and the joy that we hope for. And really recognizing that this is something to turn towards, to really investigate, to know. as the Buddha said, with the first noble truth, there's dukkha. And what we should do is to know it, to understand it, really turn towards it. And that when we do that, then we can start to discover what the source of that dukkha is. And as some people mentioned in the check-in, seeing the sort of pre-conditioned formed sensitivity to this type of stimulation that causes us to suffer. It's not automatic. One of the things that I've found interesting over the years in practice is to see what was upsetting for me and then notice that not everyone would have the same reaction in the same situation. It's helpful. It's helpful to know that there's another way to see it. There's another way to work with it than, really being caught up in the dukkha. And so it's not to chastise ourselves in any way, but to just know, just recognize, to just be present with it, with some space around it, to really be able to take in the fact that we can be present with that cause and see alternatives to it. And also just be present with it in a way that it unfolds and processes and dissipates. It's really powerful. There's something so effective and powerful about being present with this experience, feeling. Primarily it's feeling, right? That we have so much difficulty with, painful feeling. And that we can, in just being patient and present, that there's so much power and effectiveness in that, that the feeling changes on its own, and that we can learn how to let go of it enough to allow it to really change and fade. And that in that process, we learn something. And we learn that this is not a inevitable reaction. It's not inevitable that we should be thrown off by this, whatever this circumstance or situation is, whatever that stimulation is. That there are other ways to be with it, to experience it, and to respond to it. So this is super inspiring and exciting. It's like whatever life throws at us, we have an opportunity to see it for what it really is. Just passing phenomenon. That it's arisen and it's going to go again. So this is really the kernel of the Buddha's teaching, that there's dukkha, there's a cause, and we can abandon the cause, and the dukkha ceases. But the situation hasn't changed. That's what's really interesting. It's like, oh, that whatever happened is still in my memory. That can happen again, and it doesn't have to result in my suffering. Interesting. Or the situation is still there, whatever the problem might be. And there's a whole different way of being with it. So many of you already know and have experienced practicing ways of being present with your experience, dukkha. And as I said today, I want to invite everyone to take a little time to reflect on this past year. And this is something that is done in other traditions as well, to to really reflect on the year and see, what our perception is of it now, and what are the things that went, I'll say, well, in that, maybe it was challenges that we met in a way that we feel was skillful and good, or maybe things that went in a way that we really wanted them to go, the things that were pleasant, inspiring, uplifting, wholesome. And to really appreciate that, both of those things, whether it's meeting a challenge, a negative experience in a good way, or it's really appreciating the blessings in our life, the beautiful actions of the others around us, or really noticing the parts that we'd like to learn from and improve, if you will. And we have to be a little bit careful there, not to let the inner tyrant have a negative impact on us, or to feel bad about whatever happened. So the Buddha was very much encouraging us to be aware of what we've done, have the skillful regret if we've done things that were unwholesome, maybe some breaking of the precepts or some other way in which we behaved in a way that's harmful to ourselves or to others. But to have that wholesome kind of regret, not something that brings harshness or unproductive, unhelpful reprimand, but to just know, oh, okay, that was something that I don't want to repeat. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to do it that way again. And then having that kind of mental note so that when we are faced with a similar situation in the future, there's a much better chance that we're going to respond in a way that doesn't bring that negativity with it. So as I said, some of you have experienced quite a bit of experience, right? Being present with these memories or thoughts or reflection, and being able to observe how that can be experienced when we're present, especially with those feelings in the body. Because it doesn't really, when the Buddha is talking about being with the dukkha, it's not about spinning further into the story of how this dukkha arose. That's usually not very productive. It kind of keeps the dukkha alive and keeps it going and creates more of it. We want to make sure we can see the distinction there. And the best way that I know of to preempt that kind of snowballing of building on a negative experience and keeping it alive in us is to drop the story and focus on the feeling or the felt sense in the body. So for the next little while, I want to guide you through a meditation that supports this. And so take a few minutes here as you settle in to meditate to reflect on the year. Maybe something just immediately pops up that you want to put your attention on, or maybe you have to search a little bit for what you'd like to bring to mind. And if, of course, if you don't have anything that really comes to mind about this past, recent past, or distant past that you'd like to resolve or understand better, then just meditate. Do whatever you do. And I'm going to actually use some of the words from a meditation that Ajahn Amaro put together in a book that he wrote called Just One More. He did a series on the Brahma Viharas, and this was about mudita, appreciative joy. And in this book, he kind of turned the idea of mudita looking at addiction and craving and clinging, and it's kind of what is on the flip side of the appreciative joy. And in doing so, he provided this meditation where this is really the process, being present with the felt sense in the body, and then being able to stay with it and notice it, but not cling to it. So that balance, or that sweet spot that allows us to really understand the feeling and to feel it all the way through, let it go. So take a moment as you're ready to sit, to just check in and feel how you feel right now. What's the current state of the heart? Notice any feelings that are in the body, and invite the body to relax. Just simply attending and looking at feelings, noticing them. Notice if there's any boredom or excitement or depression or some kind of feeling of inspiration. And just being present with what's there right now based on what your day has been like so far. So noticing what's there in your system right now. And just realizing, yeah, this is the way it is now. Dullness or brightness, comfort or discomfort, whatever it is. And seeing if you can relax into it, just being here in this present moment. Notice your posture. Invite your spine to straighten. Energize, upright, present. And inviting the body to settle, relax. Bringing your attention to your breath as the focal point. You can use the rhythm of the breath as this focus of attention. And of course, anytime the mind wanders, we just bring it back to that point of focus on the breath. It's really quite simple. Staying with the breath in this present reality. When you feel the mind is settled and there's a quality of poise and ease, at least some ease, then deliberately bring to mind something from the past, some memory or some desire that has some emotional charge on it. It can be something you wanted or you want to get rid of. But not going into the story, just simply bringing attention to that imagined or remembered event. And let the emotion be triggered. And fully brought forth into consciousness. And notice how that feels for that emotion to be triggered, for that to be present. And see if you can locate that in the body. Where do you feel it most strongly? Is it in the chest or the throat, the shoulders, or the belly? Wherever you're able to find this feeling, wherever it might be, just rest your attention on it. Hold that feeling as strongly as you can in your awareness. Don't try to change it or get rid of it. Just be present. Don't get caught up in it. Don't push it away. Just know the feeling, know that it's like this. As you let the feeling be fully known, bringing your awareness to it. Then, with the rhythm of the breath, really relax. Let your attitude toward that feeling relax and let go. And particularly on the out breath, just let the feeling be carried away little by little. So this feeling is naturally eroding, and you're just observing it. It's naturally washing away, little by little. It's like the waves of the sea slowly washing away a sandcastle. Lapping in with each breath, washing around that feeling and slowly carrying it away. Don't let the mind go into any stories. Just stay present and aware. Let the out breath carry away this thing that you've invented. And just come back to the feeling. Leave all the words aside. Keep your attention on the simplicity of this feeling, the directness of the physical feeling, being open and patient, relaxed. Letting it slowly, gently fade away. However long it takes, just stay with it. Keep letting the out breath have its effects gently, steadily, supporting the quality of release, relinquishment, relaxation. Stay with this until the body is fully relaxed, until you've completely let go of the sensation, the craving, and its effects are washed away completely. And once it's gone, sustain your attention on the absence of it. Noticing how it feels when the tension is gone. Whatever that feeling was about, it came out of nothing and it goes back to nothing. Watching the whole cycle of experience coming into being, doing its thing, and fading away. Throughout the whole process, there's a quality of knowing, caring, full, careful attention. You notice and feel this quality of spaciousness around the feeling. Sometimes this cycle of feeling can turn around very swiftly. Sometimes it takes longer. Either way, the more you do this practice, the less power these emotions have on you, have over you. You come to know that you don't have to be driven by feeling. You don't have to be afraid of feeling. It comes, it goes, and you watch it all the way through. It loses its power. And at the same time, being kind and caring, knowing that whatever feeling comes, wherever it comes from, the reaction is from something old. And you're just sitting here. The mind brings it up out of nothing. And it goes back into nothing. And if you do this when you have a triggering experience, and you see how you can work with your feelings in this way, then you realize more and more freedom. You become the master over your feelings. You develop the skill of non-entanglement, non-clinging, letting go, releasing. And when we can let go and release the feelings of desire and aversion, we don't need to cling to anything. We can be happy for the good and unafraid of that which is not good. So that was a very, very quick um, exploration of this method. And I realized that you might have wanted a lot more time with that feeling. And I hope you can do this many times on your own or with a friend giving you guidance. But if you do it on your own, you can really take your time. And once you kind of learn how it goes, which you can see is not very complicated at all, then my experience has been it's useful to journal about it a bit. Write down what the triggering event is, and just in a phrase, and then take it into your meditation and see what happens, and then maybe make some notes about it afterwards, so that you can really start to develop skill around this. It's really the first three noble truths. I think in general, we read them, we hear people talk about them, but it's hard to know how to actualize them, without a little bit of this kind of support, of some guided meditation. And then once we know the process, we can guide ourselves and really see what comes up. You know, sometimes things that are very strong, ongoing situations that just keep triggering again and again. We can really start to get a sense of how we can be present with the situation, this feeling, work it through, let it go. And then when you are working with something that you're really dealing with a situation that's ongoing in your life, then you can also, you know, after we get to that place of the body being fully relaxed and the sensation having been completely dissipated, then we can reflect and open the mind in as much stillness as we can to see what else arises, to know the wisdom of being able to deal with the situation. Sometimes it requires some challenging choices that we may need to make, or just some extraordinary acceptance, especially when it's related to the body deteriorating, and those kinds of inevitable pieces of human existence, of human life, human experience, these kinds of things that we all have the potential to face. So that's a very simple, straightforward approach. Later today, I'm thinking of guiding through a feeding your demons session where it's a little more complex, but also can be extremely supportive. Working with the feeling, the dukkha related feeling, and then finding that shift into being an ally or support for moving forward. So I'm interested in hearing any comments or questions at this point. Could I use it with our group? Yeah. Yeah, if you want to look for the text, you can find that little book of Ajahn online. It's called Just One More, and it's on page 63, I think. Check my notes here. Yeah, that's correct. Just One More, page 63. It's perfectly safe. Now, if you stay out of the story, you're perfectly safe. If you stay with awareness, you know, when Ajahn Sumedho over and over again says, trust awareness. It's a safe space. And of course, you want to do it in a safe space where you're physically and emotionally safe. So if you do it with other people, you should be trustworthy friends, etc. Someone who's not going to give you advice. So just let your own wisdom be the guide. James?
So when I mentioned last week that your friend of mine had passed away suddenly, and I was reflecting on his life, and um, what really hit me is that, you know, he hadn't learned anything in his entire life, you know, with respect to, you know, what we would consider wisdom. And he kind of trudged through it. You know, he was a good person. I don't think he, you know, anyway, it just, then I started looking around and at my family and my children, and they don't seem to be learning anything either. I mean, in terms of wisdom, in terms of, dukkha, in terms of the Four Noble Truths. Um, so then, of course, the next step is just to take in the whole of humanity and, who's really learning anything. It's just the same old shit going on, year after year, lifetime after lifetime. And of course, this isn't, going to be a revelation to anybody, but I experienced it rather directly, and as one would expect, there's a lot of nibida uh, that arises out of that. And but at the same time, I find myself, I don't know if it's reactive to that or just certainly reactive to dukkha, just seeking diversion and sensual pleasures uh, to cover it up. Um, so, anyways, it's just a difficult time, and it's difficult to look at. Um, but it's written. I mean, one of the reasons I so much enjoy this group um, and other, sanghas who are comprised of really serious practitioners, that everybody is seeking wisdom, everybody is seeking um, something beyond what's being offered by the world, and so that that's certainly the infusion of positivity and inspiration and hope, not for humanity, but that there are those um, who are walking the same path, and that we can support each other. Anyway, that's a lot of dukkha.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank
there it
you.
is in a nutshell. Thank you. Yeah, it's true. And it does get easier to look at it as we, you know, take it in, really feel it, let it go. And, this is the way it is. And we do it, your description is right on. We see the same cycles, the same suffering again and again and again. And I think the hope for humanity is that there is a way out, and at some point the light bulb comes on. Maybe the Buddha never said all beings will get enlightened. It's the way it is, you know. And then what comes up, perhaps automatically, almost, is the mudita and the gratitude that you've found this path, that the Buddha did discover this himself without anybody showing him how. And we've got him to show us how. And, it's like my job is really not so hard because I just can point to the Buddha. The Buddha, this is the Dhamma. It's not, we don't have to come up with anything ourselves. We can just open to the Dhamma and share that with each other. And it's a humbling and inspiring path. And yeah, nibbida, the disillusionment with the world is appropriate to the path. It leads to full awakening. If there's aversion mixed in it, we should notice that and let that go. And, really, when it's painful, it's because we just haven't really let go of the hope that it's going to bring something other than what it brings. And so, as we kind of work with our feelings, and work with it through the body, little by little, we start to recognize that we're gradually letting go of materialism. We're gradually letting go of the false promises of samsara. It's just coming to the truth and being present with it. And the truth has this beauty in it, like there is something other than this ongoing hope and despair. And, we have a choice. Yeah, thank you. Paula?
I may have missed something in my own exploration, but I wonder if you could speak more to the fact that you said that, or the point that you said that this is like the first three noble truths. I get the first one yeah, I mean, that one I truly felt in my own meditation. But afterwards, when you said it's, the second and the third, I'm like, I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Okay. So you might, every session of this kind of thing is different, regardless, because we're in a different place, we're working with different stuff, and you may have needed longer period to be with that felt sense. And this second noble truth about understanding the cause, it can be a little bit difficult to see how that comes through, but when we are attentive to that feeling in our body, and we know what the story was, even, though I, don't go into the story, but how this gets triggered. And then you feel this dukkha, and that you from the feeling of it, the clinging and the craving, we're holding on to it, and then we're gradually letting it go. The body's relaxing, the mind is relaxing, you're present with it. And as it washes away little by little, that's the cessation, that's the third noble truth. Now, I think the second noble truth comes out a little bit more sharply in the feeding your demons process. Because in that process, for those who haven't encountered it at all, it's a bit more, a little bit more of framing in modern psychology, you might say, where you have a chair across from you or a cushion, depending, and you're observing this feeling in your body, and then you're inviting it to take on the image, the persona of a living being, and you imagine it as fully as you can, and then you talk to it. So you're asking it, like, what do you want from me? What do you need from me? And how will you feel when you get what you need? And this afternoon, I'll be describing what all of that is about. And then the upshot is, how will you feel when you get what you need? You really see where this cause of the dukkha is in this particular experience. Because if the demon is going to feel loved, or the demon is going to feel safe, or the demon is going to feel respected, or whatever it is, then that the root of that second noble truth, the cause, it's not enough to just say, oh, it's craving, like it says in the text. You got to get more specific in your own specific instance of it here, so that you really understand, hey, I'm feeling a lack of love. I'm feeling a lack of safety. I'm feeling a lack of being respected. I'm feeling, there's something, but it's all focused on a sense of self, every bit of it. And that's where we really feel that second noble truth. It's like, oh, crap. I want something from this world or something from this other person or something from something that I just can't get here. Not really, not reliably. And then when you shift back, so you've asked the demon the questions, you shift into that other seat, the demon answers. You're embodying this demon image, this demon persona, and you're answering these questions from your intuition. That's how you come to know something that's deeper than what's operating in the conscious mind. And so that's where this, okay, wow, what I'm really feeling is lacking is this respect, say. And then you shift back and you feed the demon respect. You feed the demon love. You feed the demon safety, whatever that is. And when the demon is filled with it, fully satiated, then they turn into something else, this ally, right? So you feel the cessation, you feel the third noble truth happening, because this feeding is happening, and that whole need for respect or safety or whatever completely dissipates. And so just like now we had this small example of this feeling, hopefully you did anyway, really getting washed away, this dukkha getting washed away. And when that happens, then we feel what it's like to be free of that. You do this over and over and over with every triggering event, you start to really understand something. I thought, oh, I've got a lot of problems. I've got a lot of triggers. I've got a lot. And at the end, it all comes down to one thing every time, the same thing. You don't have a lot of problems. You only got one. It's this identity thing. So you think you're something you're not, and then you want it to be fulfilled. It's like, no, it's not going to happen. So it's like, but what does happen is the relief, the release, the knowing of the Dhamma directly. And at the end of the day, arahantship. No going back. No coming into delusion ever again. That's where we're going with this. Yeah. So I hope you can stay for the rest or come back later on. We're getting a break for the meal here, and it's a pretty long break. So if you have time, if you're going to make this into a day long for yourself, then try this again during the break. Have some time to relax yourself, and then, see if you can do it on your own. Just write down what the trigger is, go into meditation, and give yourself the guidance. If you find the book online, you can look at what the cues are from the text if you want to. There's also a recorded version of this that I did at Cloud Mountain last year. So it's on Dharma Seed, and trying to think of what it's called, but it's in the retreat from cooling the mind, warming the heart. And it's a guided meditation. And I think there's a little description about staying with the feeling. So you can find it in there, and you can just listen to that one from the retreat if you want that kind of online readily available audio guidance. Okay, friends, have a good break. We're coming back at 1:00 Pacific time. And we'll have the feeding your demons session at that point. And then however long that takes, then we'll come back again at 3 Pacific time for any kind of discussion that we might want to have about this amazing, beautiful teaching of the Buddha that gives us the key to awakening. Okay.
Are we coming back online with Zoom at 1 or 2 Pacific time then?
1 o'clock Pacific time, and then later 3 o'clock Pacific time. And we kind of wrap it up around 4.
And do we click on the same link?
It's the same link. Yeah, it's the same. How do I apply the Dhamma to this link? Yep.
And will this be recorded?
Yes, it's being recorded. In fact, would anybody who shared this morning like that to be omitted from the recording? James, Paula, I don't know who else. I don't know if anyone else said anything that's on the recorded part. I think not. So, okay, we're good. Great.
So the feeding your demons this afternoon, I have to leave this afternoon, but will that be recorded as well?
Yes.
Super, thank you.
Will. And I want to say, and I want this to be part of the recording. I'm not a certified feeding your demons coach. I don't know if that's what they call them actually. So Lama Tsotra Malioni, who wrote the book, Feeding Your Demons, I'm going to show it to you in case, come here, book. In case you don't come back later. This is the book, one version of the book, Feeding Your Demons, Lama Tsotra Malioni. I really recommend reading it. It's a really good read. It really goes into the whole process and how to work with it. And I'm just going to be referring to the appendix in the back and guiding people through it. But they have a whole program at her center in Colorado to train people to do this with people. And I'm not one of those people. So I just give you kind of the appetizer and let you go from there. And she doesn't talk about it as the first 3 noble truths. I asked her about that once. I said, this is the first 3 noble truths. She said, yeah, you think like that because you're a Theravada nun. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, so I'll hope to see you later.